Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise channel. Special today. We're playing the 76ers today. So I'm Griffin Aldridge. Got
I'm Luis
Lewis.
Gomez.
My bad. Sorry, I was going to introduce you. And we got Justin here. Thank you for joining. We're going to do some Stephen A. Smith type thing. So just introduce yourself, please.
Um, yeah, my name's Justin. We have a sports channel for Philadelphia called JK Philly. We just started it. I don't even know how long ago. Maybe like 3 months ago. We just started it. 4 months ago. Just really made the channel off just guys talking about sports, talking, having the same love for Philadelphia because we obviously live there. And then just creating a channel out of it and, making sure that we let the people know about our Philadelphia sports if they're not paying attention and try to reach out to the bigger audience.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think they're here for a main reason. Big battle tonight.
Hmm.
Sixers versus the Boston Celtics. I'll just break down some stats really quick.
Hmm.
Sixers are 20 and 34, and the Boston Celtics are 39 and 16. And you really get into Philly, you have no Jared McCain, no Eric Gordon, no Kyle Lowry, Justin Edwards out as well. But other than that, you're looking at a pretty healthy Sixers team. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you expect from your team tonight?
Honestly, I use the word healthy very, very lightly because me and Kev, my co-host, literally just had a conversation last night when we recorded. We just uploaded, and we're using our guys. We're using Joel Embiid and we're using Paul George as one of our main people on the team, but they're hurt and they're just trying to play through pain. They're really trying to broadcast that they're not hurt, but it's pretty evident that Joel Embiid's not 100% and Paul George is not 100% after scoring 2 points in this last game. So I don't know what you want to say about the health reasons of it. I don't want to give them any excuses, but at the same time, they need to show that they can perform and not be actually injured. Like if you're injured, say that and just not play. But you know,
You're completely on point with that. I think the Boston Celtics have had some like we've had our share of injuries this season, so knock on wood, like
mhm.
that's over, but I'll get into Celtics. The only injury we have is Xavier Tillman, so we have like a good Boston team. But I do want to mention we faced off. I can't believe we couldn't do this for Christmas.
Mhm.
Faced off for Christmas. That game made me so upset. Uh,
Yeah.
I was expecting to come in here and have you be like other Philadelphia fans. Like I feel like a lot of them are like F Boston, da da da. Because did you see that clip with what happened with Tatum?
Which one?
He just went to a high school game in Philadelphia and they were chanting F Boston. Da-
Really?
Yeah, hold on,
No, I did not see that.
Let me see if
That's
I can cut all
crazy.
that out.
That actually happened.
Yeah.
It's
That's
funny.
crazy.
I wonder where he went. I mean, obviously in Philadelphia, but I wonder like for what reason he went to that school.
Now, all right. I will say from a Celtics fan, that's pretty interesting of Tatum to say the least to go there.
Hmm.
Um, what would you say as a Philly fan? How would you say would you what would what would you represent you guys as or like kind of as fans? Like what would you give yourself the title?
Um, Honestly, I think as a collective, at times it can be embarrassing. Obviously when we're hot and we're competing and we're going into a game like this where we're like, man, I don't know, it could go whichever way. Then it's a little bit. you got to have it's like you're an American. It's that type of feeling that you got. Just like I pray for my country. My country is the Philadelphia Sixers, and they just want to see them perform, and we have a high expectation for them. Right now, it's humbling a lot of us. Um, I've never been the type that goes overboard with, my love for the Sixers. I'm a basketball fan first and then a Sixers fan second. So when I see, our team and when we have our struggles and stuff like that, it's definitely upsetting, but I'm not delusional at the same time because some Sixers fans are like, I'm talking to my head coach that I coach with at my high school that I coach at, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I think we can really make a push for the playoffs this year. We're gonna not go to the play, and we're gonna get the last seed or the whatever." I'm like, "Do you see Joel Embiid playing? Do you see Paul George playing? We're not gonna get there, and even if we do get there, we're not gonna win that first round. Like it's you just got to be realistic of what's going on." But myself, I would consider myself more of like I'm a fan of the game and I like watching the game. Sixers come second because I have somebody to root for. But I'm not your casual or I'm not your broadcasted Sixers fan of like, oh, they're crazy and they'll boo you and they hate you and I don't really care about all that.
Would you say you're a fan of that in any of your Philly sports?
Am I that type of fan in any other sports?
Yeah.
Um, I
Don't
think
tell me
the only way that I am is if I'm like actually on the team. Like even
Mhm.
with the Eagles just winning the Super Bowl too, it's like I'm glad that the Eagles won. I'm not going ballistic and going to the parade and sitting outside for 5 hours in negative degree temperature type weather, but I'm happy that they won.
Oh,
But I don't know. It's like because I can when I go coach at my high school, I'm ballistic on the sideline, coaching up and down the floor. When I'm watching the Sixers game, it's like, ah, damn, he missed a shot and I just move on from it because it's not me. It's not what I'm, involved in.
yeah.
What about
Oh, my bad.
if the 76ers wins the finals? Will you go to the parade?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm just asking. I'm not saying
Well,
they're going to.
I think the reason why I went, well, so I went for the Eagles parade the first time, and it was great because I'm like, I've never seen this in my life before. This is the one of the first, if not the first time, I think, um, that the Eagles won it. So I'm like, I gotta go. Sixers, I wasn't always a fan since like a child. I just started being a fan in like high school or like middle of high school. So I'm just like, if they go now and they win it, then yeah, 100% the first time. But they start doing it like for whatever reason. Obviously, I doubt that will happen. But if it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna start being like the Golden State Warriors and win it for the next 3 years, I'm like, yeah, I can sit this one out. Like I went to the first one, that was nice. But whatever. I'll be happy if they win it, but I don't need to be up somebody's ass about, yo, let's go to the parade. We got to go to the parade at 4 o'clock in the morning and just, nah, I'm not doing all that.
So, question, are you guys hoping, I don't know if you must. Are you hoping to get the big man from Duke, Mr. Cooper Flag?
I think you'd be crazy if you said no. Do I think we're gonna get him? I don't think so. The way the lottery is gonna play out is the way that's gonna play out. I don't even think we're gonna keep our pick with the whole discourse about it being what is it with OKC if we're out of like the top six or something like that or bottom six. Um, I don't think we're going to because I think the Sixers mindset is we are close enough to make a push for the playoffs. So let's do that. I don't think it's in their mind to, oh yeah, let's just tank. Unless somebody gets hurt, but like more hurt than they already are. But yeah, I think it's not too late to start tanking for it, but I don't think that's in the mindset of Daryl Morey or whoever makes that decision call to like want to shut down and beat or shut down Paul George. So
Oh yeah.
I doubt we get it. It'd be very nice if we were trying to compete for that. But at the end of the day, it's still up to the odds. So, and there's a lot worse teams out than us. So,
Oh yeah, and I will. give you the title right now of the chillest Philly fan I've ever met because I'm like, huh, what can I spark to get some fighting back and forth? But there's really nothing. All right,
I
what
was
do you see?
expecting like you're right. I was like expecting those type of Phillies fans.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yo,
yeah.
I think a lot of it is maybe you could have got something out of me in like November when I was still under the assumption of like, yeah, man, like once Embiid's ready, we'll be good. It's almost March and this guy has still not been playing. He hasn't played more than like 3 games in 1 week. And he's been out for the statistic. I don't know the statistic, but he's been sitting more games than he's been playing. At a certain time, you just got to stop being delusional about your Sixers or your sports organization. And just like, this is what we're faced with. We can't do anything else. I can't go tell Daryl Morey myself, hey, tell Embiid to go sit the hell out for the rest of the season so we can tank. Like it's nothing we can really do. If anything, it's more frustration that you'll get out of me.
Hmm.
In terms of like my attitude of being optimistic is completely out of the window right now. I'm more concerned about I would rather see them sit both of the two stars, let Maxi play with all the G leaguers and Kelly Oubre and Yabu Sele, and just hey, I'm not telling you not to win, but just go out there and play. I'm not setting up anything. Nick Nurse, I'm not setting up any plays. Just go out there, play hard. If you win, you win. It is what it is, but we're not pushing for that win. I'd rather they do that than try to play against the fucking or sorry, the Chicago Bulls or whoever in the play-in just to go and lose to the Pacers or the Bucks or whoever that team is, but
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
for
Uh,
us, it's kind of like if the Celtics lose, and we're not gonna sleep, we're not gonna sleep good at night. I will tell
Well,
you
yeah,
that right
you
now.
you guys are in a completely 360 or 180 different situation than us. Y'all are coming off the championship, so now your expectation is super high. Like everybody's looking at you guys. So anything wrong, you lose in the first, second, or the Eastern Conference Finals, it's an upset. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did want to say something really quick, and then we'll
mhm,
kind of spin on game predictions. But
mhm.
um, you took Lonnie Walker from us, man?
I
Lonnie
know.
Walker. Why? Why do you have to take him? We were supposed to get him back. We were supposed to get him back. What happened?
See, and when I recorded, because we just uploaded yesterday, and I was talking to my co-host Kev about it, and I was like, we were going down the same path of talking about what we're talking about right now. We're the Sixers are obviously trying to make a push for playoffs with him signing or getting all these signings or getting all these two-way players. They just signed some random person. I just woke up from a nap and saw that they just signed some other random to a two-way contract or something.
Mhm.
I don't know what they're trying to do because it obviously doesn't seem like they're trying to tank, but you're paying Lonnie Walker $3 million to what, play for nothing is I don't know.
Yeah.
They are definitely under the mindset of we can make a push. Trust the process. We can make a push. I'm not trusting the process right now. There's no point to trust it because they're on TV talking about Joel Embiid is probably going to need another knee surgery by the end of the season. It's like, no, just tell him to go take it right now and come back in January next year. Like, take that much time off, then we'll be okay. But I don't know why they signed him. He should have went anywhere else but the Sixers or like a Wizards or what other teams are bad. The Hornets, like don't go in any of those teams if you're coming back to try to compete because he was doing a lot of things for like I was talking to you earlier about going to the Lakers, the Celtics, the Nets. So I don't know why. It's a good steal if we're trying to compete. I'll say that, but I don't think we are. So my mindset is probably a little bit different than what you're thinking in terms of how our team's looking.
Oh yeah. I feel bad. It's going rough in Philly. I mean, fans had the expectations. It was gonna be the Celtics, Philly, and you got New York in there. That's what
Mm-hmm.
that's what they thought essentially.
Yeah.
And I think then you're seeing the problem is Embiid, and you see Tatum rising to the superstar level that he is expected to be at. And I don't know. I do want to jump into game predictions. What do
Yeah.
you have? Obviously, last time you see the Celtics pulling a crazy comeback to win, and on Christmas it was just absolute crap show. You had
Hmm.
Caleb Martin, who thank you for sending him off. You guys got
Hmm.
him just to beat us, which I know the tricks. I know the tricks. You guys
Yeah.
like, let's go call up the Heat and let's go get Caleb Martin. Let's go have
Uh-huh.
him torch up against the Celtics. Um, but what's your end game predictions tonight? What do you think the score's gonna be? Maybe this will spark up a little fight.
From how much I've been bashing the Sixers, I would probably still continue that train, but I would say that when Philly goes up against the Celtics, it goes one of two ways. We either squeak out a win or we just get demolished by the Celtics. It's really no in between. It's not, like it's a good game because when we win, it's competitive and we're squeaking out that win. But when we get demolished, we get demolished. Do I hope that Paul George plays well this game? Of course. Do I hope that Joel Embiid does what he does? Of course. It really just depends on how we look. Like even I know it was the last game going into the All-Star break, right? Even getting Quentin Grimes scoring a 30 piece in his last game, showing that he could be a good bench player. Who knows if that's going to pop off during the Celtics game? I have no idea. Um, of course, I will support the Sixers and just say that we do have that what's it called win, but you could also just attribute that to Caleb Martin. So who really knows at the end of the day? I will just go ahead and say the Sixers, just so we can get a little bit of life back in the city with the three stars on Sixers supposed to be playing. But it could really go those one or two ways.
Do you think the 76ers could stop Tatum tonight? He's gonna go crazy, bro. What do
Um,
you think?
do they Tatum? I really like Jason Tatum. Like I said, as a basketball enjoyer, I like watching Tatum and I like his game. But some nights he can be a shot chucker, to be honest. And I see
Valid.
who you going to throw on him. Basically, is what you're saying. I don't think you really have a person on the Sixers that can hold him like that, unless you're throwing Joel Embiid on there. But even you throw Joel Embiid, he's got two limp knees, so who knows how well that's going to go. Um,
Yeah.
the matchup is what's really scary about, like, even like I was talking to you about it earlier, even if you go into a playoff series against the Celtics, it's really who's going to be on Tatum. You don't got anybody on the Sixers to really throw at Tatum unless you're talking about Paul George, but even then Paul George is old now. So it's not fair to say like, oh yeah, I'll just throw Paul George on Jason Tatum, because Jason Tatum is obviously more elevated now than he was when Paul George was at his peak in his defensive ability. um, I, I could see, that's what I'm saying. I feel like a lot of what has gone on between the Sixers and the Celtics when they have games against each other really depends on Jason Tatum, if he's going to produce or not. If he's chucking a lot of shots and turning the ball over with bad shots, however you want to view it, and they're not connecting, then yeah, the Sixers might be able to squeak it out if nobody can hold Maxey. But that's why I love watching the game, because it can always go one or two ways. So um I don't
Valid.
know.
I feel like Tatum's gonna like drop 40 points tonight. No cap.
And I could see that. I would not be surprised at all if he dropped over 30 tonight. He definitely, I would say that I don't know how big of a game that is to him, of like, oh, they beat us on Christmas, so now I gotta beat their ass. When I don't know if he's thinking like that, but they're in Philly. He wants to embarrass us. I wouldn't expect him not to do that to us.
Yeah. To at least have that mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that the Celtics need to go in there and kind of play like is just I think the Celtics are kind of where the Sixers are lacking this year. The Sixers, I feel like right now they're falling down. You had the Jared McCain injury that killed them, and you had Embiid fall over, fall backwards on the tape. Did you see that? I think that was before the Christmas game,
Yeah, yeah,
or
when he
whenever
just
it was.
fell over.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
literally tripped and fell over, whatever. But like, I think from Boston, you're gonna see a lot more intensity. Drew Holiday coming back from the injury, and just it's gonna be one of those games where you need the Sixers to perform at peak tonight because, like you said, you have the superstars back, you have your team back, you're missing some of the bench pieces, and we can't really even count McCain because he's been gone for so long. And the Boston Celtics, this is where they're hungry and they're going to tune it up a level, I hope, as a Celtics fan, because we're working our way into playoffs. So this
Mhm.
is a game where I think it should be kind of like what the spotlight has should have been with the Knicks and Celtics, but it could easily come down to the Boston Celtics blowing them out like they have been the Knicks because I think that's the thing. I think teams are almost forgetting how dominant the Celtics can actually be, and it's tough.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, like you said, the unfortunate nature that we had with our rookie and Joel Embiid is just a walking injury, and Paul George hurting his leg and then hurting his pinky and having that bothering him, and then us not having our consistent role players play the game because they have little tweaks and injuries too. The whole time up until we had like a good little stretch of games where we won like I don't even know what it was. It was like 6 or 7 out of 10 that we won. And it was like a good week and a half, 2 weeks of time that we had. That's when we had consistency with, Paul George was not playing, or he was, and Joel Embiid wasn't playing, but we had that rotation of Kelly Oubre, Yabusele was in there. And then we had, sparks from our G League guys, not G League anymore, but Ricky Council and our G League guy, Justin Edwards, just consistency with them coming in and Maxi just taking over. I'm like, I got you guys. Let's facilitate this. It was nice for a little bit, but now coming into a game like this, especially the first game after the All-Star game, of just like, okay, now we're in go mode is what the Celtics are probably saying to themselves and the Sixers. But the Celtics are like, let's make a performance against these bum Sixers and just try to trash them in their own whatever and like send a statement game. Like it is a statement game regardless of how you want to think about it. But I think it just matters a lot more to the Celtics to smoke us than the Sixers just to beat them, if that makes sense.
Lewis, what do you think would hurt more? What do you think would hurt more though, if the Sixers upset us or all right, no, this is a question for you actually. Like if the Sixers had an upset, say this happened. I'm not saying it will, but if you came out and beat us by 30, does that make you think you're back?
Does it make us ah it depends. If Joel Embiid has like 50, no, I don't think we're back. If Paul George has like 28 and Maxi has like 32 and Joel has like 20 something, and then you got some contributions from the bench, I could be like, yeah, it kind of looks like we're back. If Joel Embiid just goes off, that's just Joel Embiid going off, and then we won't expect him to do that again. He can do that as long as he wants to, but in terms of how much he's going to play, we can't expect him to always do that every night. So it could just be, oh, Joel Embiid had a master class last night. But if it was, contributions from the team and everybody had a good game, it was like, oh shit, the Sixers smoked the Celtics. That's a big game. I think it's I think it's more I think to the original question, it's probably more important that the Celtics smoke us than us just squeaking a game out.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think
I
tonight. What was that, Lewis?
I feel like in 76ers point of view, like if you have like a good game and you think if you're thinking if they're back, maybe like you gotta say that you gotta maybe time will tell like 3 games after you play
Mhm.
3 more games and if y'all still playing the same way, then you could say like, oh, we're back. Like,
Yeah, it definitely it's going to take
Consistent.
more than just beating like one of the top teams just to be like, oh, we're back because we still have however many games left in the season. We could win that game and lose our next seven. So it could
yeah.
just go like that. But the Sixers are a very surprising team this season, and we're losing games that we're not expecting to lose, and then we're winning games that we never expected to win. We didn't know. I don't think any right in mind thinks that the Sixers would have won that Christmas game coming into it. Even though Joel Embiid came back, he wasn't even the main factor of that game. It, so we're losing games to like in the early. Obviously, the Detroit Pistons are a better team than they were last year. But just going into those series and when we were like 2-12 or something like that, and our only games were an overtime win against the Pacers, that was like by a hair because Maxi almost had 40 or had 40 something, and then another random game where Maxi had 40 again. It's like, why are we losing these games?
Yeah.
So it's just been surprising.
So really quick,
Trying to think of what's a good question to ask you. There's obviously been a lot of discourse, and we've been talking a lot about Jason Tatum. Uh, did you see the clip of Brandon Jennings on Gilbert Arenas podcast? I know you probably have. What
yeah.
what what is your thought process behind that, or your guys' feeling about that? Because I can only relate it to if somebody's talking about Joel Embiid, but in terms of Jason Tatum, obviously coming off a championship, what does that really say to you?
I'm not trying to tap back at you with the Sixers stuff. I think if you were talking about Joel Embiid, that might be accurate with softest Sixers in history. But with Tatum, I think that's completely false. And I think from going from not meaning to be a huge name, Brandon Jennings isn't a huge name, from going from that to saying that to who I now people will call me biased because I'm a Celtics fan, but who could be top five in the league currently, Jason Tatum, like up there. How can you even say that when you were a nobody? That's just him trying to get clout, from
Yeah.
my personal opinion. Lewis, what do you think?
I just think like kind of like a disrespect now. You don't think so?
I disrespect. What's your thoughts on it? What do you think?
I when I was watching the clip, obviously Gilbert Arenas' whole podcast and everybody that's on that team are a bunch of haters at the end of the day anyway.
Mhm.
So you got to expect, of course, they're looking for clips, but they're also just haters within themselves and try to broadcast that they're not, but they're always hating. Uh, when I was watching the clip, though, I don't really understand because you got to give a criteria to what soft is. Because are you talking about he's soft in terms of he can't put up numbers like a real superstar, or is he soft like if he gets bumped, he's like he falls on the floor and he looks hurt? Like what type of soft are you talking about? I don't think there's always a weird connotation with people that are soft because they don't speak. Like Jason Tatum is like he'll give your casual like scream or like let's go type thing, but he's not on the level of who's a good person like Draymond Green when he's hyped.
Mhm.
Like you wouldn't call Draymond Green soft, regardless if he's scoring or not. He's going to show you that he can play the game and whatever. But you're talking to that type of specific of like he just doesn't talk a lot, or he's just like too chill off the court, or he doesn't like the confrontation between people, so he just holds back. I'm like, that doesn't matter about the game. Jason Tatum is obviously an all-star superstar, and you got to agree with it. I can't come up here and lie to you and say, no, Jason Tatum hasn't done anything for the city and he hasn't done anything in terms of scoring anything. Like obviously he's proven himself to do that now. And the only point that they have to stand on is, oh, well, Jaylen Brown got the finals MVP over you. So what?
I know, like, and I will
Yeah,
say
that's
Yeah, he deserved Eastern Conference Finals MVP, whatever they call that trophy. I think,
Hmm.
yeah. But I will say Finals MVP, I think that should have went towards Tatum. Like,
Hmm.
just like I don't know your opinion on this, but I think Tatum was even robbed from Curry with the All-Star game. Like, he clearly had better stats. He shot the ball at a 10 times better percentage. I think the thing was with Curry is it's at home and you're gonna favor that. And I feel like a lot of people with Jaylen Brown, yes, he did phenomenal. But I think they're like he hasn't got the respect he deserved, or it could even be the league kind of swishing in a little. All right, but if we make him finals MVP, then that'll bring more hype around him. And like that's what we don't want. We want him to have an underdog story.
Yeah,
And
it could, I could definitely see them doing that type of narrative if they wanted to, or if they're really thinking about it like that. Um, Watching that series, you just have to assume, yeah, it's just got to be Tatum here. So it was a real big surprise that it was Brown. Um, Saying that Brown's not deserving of it, though, I don't know. I think he still
oh yeah.
was a definitely needed part in that series.
Yeah.
I think it really comes back to, I think that's really the only thing that I can maybe not accurately argue all the time, but I think it really comes back to like if Tatum has a bad game in that series and Jaylen Brown just doesn't, that's why they can like hold on to something and be like, oh yeah, Brown, because Jason Tatum scored, I don't even remember the series wholeheartedly, but I think that's one thing of Jason Tatum can be inconsistent where he can like disappear for a game, but he can come back and score 50 the next game. So does it really matter? But I think that's really the only critique on him that I think about when it comes to that overall. But I do think, just being candid about a basketball fan, that he should have got that.
Yeah. I I kind of like what you said and I put it in perspective to the All-Star game. I think really kind of in a different way though. You're right. Jaylen Brown did not have a bad game in that finals. Jason Tatum may have had one bad game or two bad games. I forget. He had one or two, but he played fantastic the rest of it. But
Mm-hmm.
they're like, all right, but they both played so good, but Tatum didn't play good this game and Brown
Mm-hmm.
still did. He showed up. I think with now kind of connecting it back to the All-Star game, I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna say Curry. It's so tough. Like I said, the only reason Curry won it, he was at home. Like if this were anywhere else, but I think it's also the name Curry. Like it's Curry. Like you're gonna choose Curry over Tatum any day because it's Curry. Like it's just how it is. They give favor to their Hall of Famers, like
Of
they
course.
put that first for sure.
Yeah, and when it's not the young guys, but when it's those guys league like him and Anthony Edwards and Luca and that group of superstars that we have right now, it'll be the same thing for our young guys that are coming in right now. Like Wemby's obviously going to be elevated, but all those other guys like the Thompson twins, when they go up, and they're obviously going to get better. It could be the same thing of like, oh, now they're saying Tatum only because it's in Boston, but uh, who Stefan Castle really should have deserved it. Just something like that. It'll be the same narrative with just different people when they get their flowers later in life.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask because I had another question about Jason Tatum specifically, and if we don't even have to talk about Tatum too much, but obviously I would probably hope that you guys think that he's your best player.
Oh,
So,
Yeah,
um,
he is.
in being a strong fan of your team, you still have to be realistic into what your players can do positively and negatively. What do you think overall? Because we know how well and how good Jason Tatum can be on any given night, that his biggest critiques, you would say.
Lewis, do you want to start off with this, or do you want me to start off with this one?
You start. I will be.
Now, I am Tatum's biggest fan. I have all of his jerseys, have the US one, I have the All-Star one, I'm getting this All-Star one, have Tatum back there, Tatum over there, Tatum everywhere. So, biggest Tatum fan. I will say though, the thing that makes me mad about Tatum is I don't mind him. You mentioned it earlier. I don't mind him hucking up shots. Like I had a problem with it last year in the playoffs, but I look at it like this: would I rather have Tatum huck up those shots and miss it, or would I rather have anyone else on the team huck up those shots and miss it? And the answer is Tatum. Like I'll have him take those shots because he's a superstar. Like if he's not gonna make it, whatever. Like he's gonna shoot those shots anyways. I can't be angry at it. Like,
Hmm.
all right, if he's missing every single shot, then pass the ball. Stop. Like, stop.
Hmm.
You have other superstars on the team. But I will say, I understand his need for concern when he claps and he gets all mad. But a thing, and I'm not getting into that soft stuff, and that's where I think it kind of came in, softest Celtics, because he
Hmm.
gets, he expects fouls. When you're great, you expect fouls. It's just how it is. But I do say, for me, when watching basketball, I hate when it affects their game and how it kind of, like, he'll let that get to him or he'll sit on the other side of the court and plead his case when they're going back and he missed the defensive possession because he was complaining.
Hmm.
Like, go do the defensive possession and then kind of work your way into, all right, but he hit me right here. Plead your case. That's fine. If it's gonna affect the next possession, then don't do it. Like if they're going down on a fast break and then all of a sudden it's a 4-on-5 because Tatum's slow to get there because he was going like that, then that's what irritates me. But that
Hmm.
you could say the same for every player because that happens like 10 times a game with
Hmm.
different players. So I think that's kind of more so a NBA player standpoint, but like it just that's the thing that would get on my nerves last year.
Hmm.
Lewis, what's your thought on that?
For me this year, Tatum's is a fantastic player. I love him, but I could see like Justin said earlier. Um, he will be on the roll. Like he will be really hot. Like let's say the last 5 games, he's super hot. But then in the middle of nowhere, like he has that game that he's just like he's really like not playing like the Tatum that we know. You get me? That like in the defense and shooting is a little weird. At some point, we end up like winning those games, and it's like barely.
Mhm.
Like I wonder, like sometimes those type of games are like, what is it mental for you, or because anyone could have a bad game. You get me? It's a human at the end of the day, but like I don't know. Sometimes I just wish like he could like maybe like if he had a bad first quarter, maybe bounce back in the second quarter, not let it like happen, let it you like not like play bad the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree, with your guys' statements because I can relate the same thing to Joel when he's playing consistently. He will argue to the end of the game about a foul that he should have gotten, and even just the label that he has of being a foul baiter. Like he's going to do that. He's going to play the advantage to try to get fouled, of course. If it doesn't fall his way, it doesn't fall his way, but make sure that he's going to argue it at every point. Understanding that Jason Tatum does that as well. And I don't think it's mental with him. It could be, and it could affect his whole game, but maybe I'm just not watching a lot of Celtics games, but I feel like if he has a bad first quarter, most of the time, I would say he's probably going to have a bad rest of the game. Just from us playing him, I think it was the one playoff series we had where he was playing. I think he was playing bad, like in the first or second quarter. Like he had a bad quarter, and then for the rest of the game, he just did not miss a shot. It was when he had 50 in a playoff game. I think it was like
Yeah.
6 or 7. It was a couple years ago, but that's like the only
22,
game.
I think. I think it was 22.
I think that's when they went against the Warriors the first time
Yeah, I think
to
we
the.
faced you. Yeah, I think we face
But
you.
we were like the first round or second round you guys played, but um, that's the only time I really remember it. But it's like Jason Tatum can just go quiet sometimes to just like he's just playing his game. Like yeah, he might finish with like 11, but that's not what's expected of him. But yeah, like you said, he's human at the end of the day, so it's not in consistent streaks of how long he has bad games, but he'll have one here and there. I think that's normal.
Yeah, I think he kind of changed with that aspect. I feel like sometimes with Tatum, you will see that if he's not hitting shots, he'll drown. But I think
Hmm.
he kind of changed in a sense this year, and that's where I have to give him his flowers because I think if he sees that he's struggling, he goes in at halftime, fixes what he had to fix, and he'll come out there and hit stuff. But there's a lot of times that he doesn't do that too. So it's frustrating and it makes you think, all right, well, you need to make adjustments because we're about to go out there and lose, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that's what the Celtics did against the Sixers on Christmas. Like they came back in that fourth quarter and almost won. Like I
Hmm.
was on I will admit, I think the best game on Christmas was that Knicks versus Spurs game. But
Yeah.
that next one, obviously, it was the sad outcome that the Celtics lost and ruined Christmas for me. But
Yeah.
I think looking at it at a basketball fan on a basketball perspective, like that's gold because the Celtics almost came back and they're like, and that kind of showed you what this Sixers team can do if they're healthy and that's the saying right there. If that's the
Yeah.
big if, and it sucks because I personally was excited for Paul George to come to Philly. I was hyped for him to go there because I'm like just more competition because you know it too from the Boston Celtics last year. They got a lot of hate because their playoff run. You know
Hmm.
that. So it kind of makes it be like, all right, well, the East is a lot better now, so where's the excuses? But
Right.
I wanted to kind of throw now with tonight. What do you see? Who do you see being the highest scorer on the team? You kind of already mentioned it. Like if it were a blowout, that's what you want to see. But what's your predictions?
Um, of course, I'm always going to say the Sixers in any outcome, regardless if I'm lying or not.
Mhm.
But I think Joel had some time, even though he did play. I think he played that last game before the All-Star break. He had some time, even though he's had time all season. I'm sure that he's still going to go out and produce what he always is used to producing, at least 25 points, regardless if it's half at the line or half he's hooping. Um, I think it's going to need to be a game from Paul George to not score below 10 points or not below what his average is of like what 14 or 15 points that he's been averaging. Like we've been talking shit about you for the past 2, 3 weeks now because of your performance that you've been having in these last stretch of games. So you need to come out and show something because all with the Philly fans is if you're not going to produce, and this is anybody, this is any fan, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to produce, you're going to piss us off and we're going to boo you every single time you're at home. The first shot that you miss, we're going to boo you, regardless if it's the first shot of the game or you don't even start shooting until the second or third or whatever you want to do. We're going to boo you until you hit that shot. So we need the type of dog that we know Paul George can be, but I don't want to get set in the illusion that, hey, this is OKC Paul George and he can produce for us. I'm not under that illusion. I know who Paul George is and how he's been producing with the Clippers. You can at least give you what you gave the Clippers last season. We'd be great with that. You're not even giving us a sniff of that. So we'll see. Paul George has had like one or two good games. Uh, I won't lie, like more than two games, but has not had a lot of good games with the Sixers so far, including times that he's been out injured. And then, of course, we're just going to depend on Maxi again, see what he can do. Obviously, you can label him as a shot chucker, but you don't really got anybody else on the team that's going to be scoring unless you're depending on Kelly Oubre. So we'll see. I really like you said earlier, that matchup on Jason Tatum makes me think of Kelly Oubre, but the reason why I'm not mentioning his name is because it's Kelly Oubre. He can
He
do as
has
much as
killed the
he
ball.
can, but
Yeah, he
yeah,
has killed the Boston Celtics though. Like that last matchup, it's these random names though that you're seeing. Like that's
yeah,
what kills the Celtics is these random names. It's not the Embiid which you hope it would be, but like No, it's the Kelly Oubre, it's the Yabusele. It's for all we know, it's gonna be Quentin Grimes tonight. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's why I mean that's why basketball is so great because I don't know how this game's going to play out because I'm only going off of this Christmas game and one of the early season games where I think we got blown out. So other than that, like I'm ready for this game. I'm excited for it. I don't want to get my hopes up too high in case like the Celtics come set a new record in their first quarter and like score 50 on us, but we'll see what happens with this game. I'm more excited that Joel's coming out to play because if Joel's playing, it's going to be a good game regardless because he's not going to have a bad game.
I agree. What do you think final score is gonna be?
Final score, duh, 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 duh. If we can compete with them in terms of, I know Boston loves to shoot. If you guys are hitting your shots, you're definitely at least going to be in the one teens or the 120s. If we're coming out victorious, I would assume that's probably going to be a close game. And I would assume that you guys are probably missing some shots if that's the case. So I would say we're probably going to win around like 110 to like 101, 104, something like that. I don't see the Sixers coming out and doing like a 125 to a 93 against the Celtics. Like that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a close game. It's really just if the Sixers can keep their foot on the gas with the Celtics and compete with them.
Yeah. Lewis, what are your player expectations for tonight?
I think the MVP of the game will be Tatum. I feel like Tatum's gonna go off, especially after hearing those boos in that high school that he went to yesterday.
Yeah, I think that'll kind of light a fire under him. I think we might see a
Especially,
Tatum game tonight. Very,
especially from Christmas. It's Christmas. He's been, maybe he's thinking about it. Maybe it's
He
in,
had it
yeah.
built up a little bit in his head already from Christmas, and then that just pushed him over the edge going to Philly. I
I
don't
know,
know.
Yeah.
but like, all right, I love Tatum, and I can't believe I'm like, but you gotta expect when you're going to that game that you're gonna get booed. Like, you can't.
That's I think he knew that going into the game, and he's like,
Maybe,
I need something for this Philly game.
maybe it's like some MJ thing. Maybe he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not good with faking that people are disrespecting me, so I'm gonna go there just because I know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, that is funny if that is the case. But I also think Embiid loves playing. He doesn't like playing the Celtics because he
It's not a
probably has a
rivalry.
very bad record, but
Not
he
a rivalry.
loves playing the Celtics. Yeah.
What do you think about that? It's not a rivalry when we always kick our ass. That Embiid quote.
I think Embiid is hilarious. And it goes back to he's feeding into all the delusional Sixers fans and just like, yeah, we're like that. It's never a rivalry. We don't have anything to say to the Celtics. Like they're bums. It's like you're talking about the Celtics. Like they've never been towards the bottom of the table in terms of competition wise. You got to respect them who they are. It's obviously just lighting the fuel or lighting the fire under their ass of, you know, getting hyped for those games and stuff like that. But I love the games. I love the competition that it brings. I'd rather see Joel Embiid play the Celtics more than not than more than the Hornets that we play like 16 times a year and have those competitions, even if it's a losing record that we have between the two of just like, oh, against the Celtics, we're like 16-7, or something like that. I'd rather still watch those games because it's going to be competition.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what it will be tonight. That's why I think, like, just from my perspective, I think, there is going to be a fire under Tatum because of that, but I don't think he'll actually have a legacy night. I think he'll have what we call an average Tatum night, which is like 31,
Yeah.
hopefully like around there. I think Brown, um, I think Brown will have like, I think he'll probably be in like low 20s and stuff like that. I think Derek White, you could see him having, I think there's going to be a lot of just fight tonight. I think there's going to be hopefully, I'm hoping we come back and this is a game to start a winning streak out of the All-Star break.
Mhm.
Because you have Porzingis, who he does great, and you have Drew Holiday, who's coming back and he's ready to play some basketball. He hasn't played basketball in a while. And I think you're just going to see ultimately a good game. You're going to see some action from Torrey Craig, who is newly acquired from the Boston Celtics, and he played great. But I
Mhm.
think ultimately you're going to come with a final score. I think you're going to see a good defensive effort from Drew Holiday. We saw a very great defensive effort from the Lakers and Hornets game last night. And I think we're going to kind of go in the more similar route. If the Celtics are hitting their shots at first, they hit a lot of threes. I
Yeah.
think if it's a blowout, they're going to be in the 120s and keep Sixers kind of like in the 100s. But I think
Mhm.
if it's a close game, you're going to see the Boston Celtics winning with a score of like, similar to you. I think they will get early teens. I think like 112 to like not 97. I know that seems crazy, but I think
Mhm.
that's kind of like more so the short stick. I think they
Mhm.
just are going to come out with a lot of authority. Now you have Joel Embiid, who I think will have a lot of points, but I think Celtics ultimately are going to just dominate because they want to show how much fire they have in the tank, and they need to make a statement because you got to show that we're still going to be a team to compete with in playoffs, and we're going for the championship.
Yeah, you can definitely see that. I think with the fire that they want to show and they really want to make the Sixers their example of, hey, this is what we can still do to teams that aren't good or that you think are good with their superstars. I think the Sixers are well equipped to weather that storm when Joel Embiid's in that game, regardless of however well that they do. The Sixers have had history within these games, regardless of wins and losses, have had experiences weathering those storms and coming back and winning those games, or at least competing it so it's down to the wire. Especially with Joel Embiid loving to play against the Celtics and Maxi obviously being there. I think they'll be able to handle that regardless of however they come out. Like I said, unless they score 50 to our 17 in the first quarter or whatever it is, then that's a different conversation, but that's very unlikely that that would happen. But I think the Sixers have it in them to weather that storm to get past that.
Lewis, what are your thoughts? You got like score predictions or what do you got?
I've been thinking about it. I might think it might be a close game. Not like Celtics are gonna win, but I'm thinking of Celtics 116 and 76ers 108.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be a nice game for the 76ers.
I think it's gonna be close no matter what. You're gonna see a good game unless, like you said, the Celtics like have a legacy first quarter, go out there and shoot the lights out and their three balls working. That's the only way you're gonna see it being a lopsided game. I think other
Yeah.
than that, it's gonna be close no matter what. Like no matter what the
Mhm.
outcome is, unless I will say I think like kind of feeding back to what you said, if you see the Boston Celtics hit that legacy in the first quarter and they're going, you're going to see them run away. But if not, it's going
Yeah.
to be a close game.
Yeah. I could
Yeah,
I
that's
could see
true.
him. I could see him weathering it. I don't like I said, I don't think that's what they're on that type time where they want to do that. Is it going to come out like that? Who knows? It could be people's emotions are going wild or the energy that they have in them is making them miss shots and they're too jittery or they're still NBA players, but it could always affect somebody is like, oh, you took that shot 3 seconds too early, and now that messed up the momentum of the game. So it can always be something that's within it. But it's the same thing with the Sixers. We got to make sure that we're on point with that. Hopefully, I'm seeing vacation pictures from Paul George, sipping wine on the beach and whatever he
Doing
wants to
his
do. So
podcast.
doing his podcast. So hopefully he's ready to come back and actually play and compete today. So we'll see what happens, man. I just want to go on live. Already, like I've gone on live on my channel. I hated the Paul George contract. I hate it when he was in the news of he's going to come to us because I knew Daryl Morey was like, oh my God, I need Paul George. I did not want Paul George. I don't like Paul George. I never liked Paul George. I just want to go on and say that.
Uh, well, Paul George is gonna be the story behind either the Sixers win or their loss today.
Yeah,
Thank you again so much for joining us. We've been talking about this content for a little bit. I think we have one more game this season, so we'll plan on that and then do something on your channel too if you're down for that.
sure,
Obviously, we talked about that. So thank you guys again for watching. Really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Go check out his channels. Link in description. Thank you guys. Peace.
Yeesh.